Emperor Kythax stood before the massive viewing screen in his throne room, watching the small blue planet rotate slowly in the cosmic void. His forearms crossed over his chest as his advisors gathered around him. The planet looked peaceful from this distance, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans and brown continents. "Tell me about these creatures again," Kythax said, his voice deep and commanding. His purple skin gleamed under the artificial lights of his ship. Admiral Vex stepped forward, holding a data tablet in his clawed hands. "They call themselves humans, my Emperor. They are mammals with only 2 arms and 2 legs. Their technology is very basic. They still use chemical rockets and primitive computers. Most importantly, they fight among themselves constantly." The Emperor's mouth curved into what his species considered a smile. "Fighting among themselves? How wonderfully convenient." "Yes, my Emperor. Our long-range scanners show they have over 200 separate nations on their planet. They wage wars over resources, territory, and even ideas. In the last 100 of their years, they have fought 2 massive global wars that killed millions of their own kind." Science Advisor Zeph floated closer on her anti-gravity platform. Her tentacles moved excitedly as she spoke. "The biological scans are fascinating, my Emperor. These humans are incredibly resilient. They can survive in many different environments on their planet. They are strong for their size and learn quickly. However, their brains are small compared to most intelligent species we know." Emperor Kythax nodded slowly. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled over 847 star systems for the past 3,000 years. They had conquered or enslaved dozens of species. Some had been warriors like the Korthak. Others had been brilliant scientists like the Mendi. But humans seemed to be the perfect combination of traits for what the Empire needed most: workers. "What about their military strength?" the Emperor asked. Admiral Vex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "My Emperor, they barely qualify as a spacefaring species. They have sent a few small ships to their nearest moon and some robots to nearby planets. Their most powerful weapons are nuclear bombs, which are destructive but very primitive. A single one of our battlecruisers could destroy their entire planet. Their technology is at least 500 years behind the weakest species in our empire," added Science Advisor Zeph. "They do not even have energy shields or particle weapons. They still fire metal bullets from simple guns." The Emperor walked to his throne, a massive chair carved from a single crystal found on the first world he had conquered. His ancestors had built the Zephyrian Empire through careful planning and overwhelming force. They studied each species for years before making contact. They learned their weaknesses and strengths. Then they struck with precision. "How many of them are there?" he asked. "Approximately 8 billion on their home planet," Admiral Vex replied. "No colonies elsewhere. They are all concentrated in one location, making them easy to capture." The Emperor's smile grew wider. 8 billion workers would solve many problems for the Empire. The mining operations on the Outer Rim needed labor. The construction of new battle stations required strong backs and clever hands. The humans seemed perfect for such work. "My Emperor," Science Advisor Zeph said, "I should mention that our psychological profiles show humans have some unusual traits. They form strong emotional bonds with their families and groups. They can be extremely aggressive when threatened. However, they also show remarkable loyalty when properly managed. Emotional bonds can be useful," the Emperor mused. "We threaten one human's family, and that human will work harder to protect them. Their aggression can be channeled into useful tasks. As for loyalty, that will develop over time once they understand their new place in the galaxy." Admiral Vex brought up a holographic display showing Earth's major population centers. Bright dots marked cities with millions of humans packed closely together. "My Emperor, I recommend we begin with simultaneous strikes on their largest population centers. We capture the leaders and the military quickly. Within 6 months, we should have the entire species under our control. The Emperor studied the display carefully. The humans had spread across their entire planet, but they were not evenly distributed. Most lived in large groups, near oceans or rivers. Their cities were clearly visible from space, with no attempt to hide or defend them from orbital attack. 6 months seems generous, the Emperor said, but I approve. We will move slowly and carefully. I want minimal damage to the population. Dead workers are useless workers. Science advisor Zeph raised one of her tentacles. My Emperor, should we make contact first? Offer them a chance to surrender peacefully? The Emperor considered this for a moment, then shook his head. No. Experience has taught us that intelligent species fight harder when they have time to prepare. We will demonstrate our power first. When they see how easily we can destroy their cities from orbit, they will surrender quickly. Admiral Vex began typing commands into his tablet. I will prepare the fleet, my Emperor. We have 200 battle cruisers available for this operation. That should be more than enough for such a primitive species. But first, we will make the proclamation. Let the galaxy know of our intentions. It is only proper. Within hours, the official proclamation went out across all communication networks in the galaxy. The message was simple and direct. The Zephyrian Empire had discovered a new species called humans. These humans were classified as Category 7 labor species. They would be harvested and put to work for the greater good of the Empire. The proclamation listed the reasons for this classification. Humans were intelligent, but not too intelligent. They were strong, but not strong enough to threaten advanced species. They bred quickly, ensuring a steady supply of workers. Most importantly, they were divided and primitive, making conquest simple and safe. Across the galaxy, other species received this news with mild interest. The Altarian Republic placed bets on how long the humans would last before complete surrender. The Centauri Federation wondered if they might be able to purchase some human workers for their own projects. The Insectoid Hive Collective simply noted the information for their extensive databases. None of them were particularly concerned. After all, the Zephyrian Empire had done this many times before. It was simply business as usual in a galaxy where strength determines survival. Emperor Kythax returned to his private chambers, pleased with the day's work. Soon, the Empire would have 8 billion new workers. The blue planet would become another jewel in his crown. The humans would learn their place in the cosmic order, just as all the other species had learned theirs. He had no way of knowing that his proclamation had been intercepted by primitive radio telescopes on Earth. He could not have imagined that those simple humans were already preparing their response. The Emperor fell asleep that night, dreaming of the profits his new slaves would bring. He had made the first and greatest mistake of his very long life. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the massive radio telescope display, her coffee growing cold in her hands. The signal was unlike anything she had ever seen before. It was clearly artificial, highly complex, and coming from deep space. But what made her blood run cold was that her translation software had finally cracked enough of the pattern to reveal its meaning. Director Morrison needs to see this immediately, she whispered to her assistant, Marcus. Within 2 hours, the underground bunker beneath NORAD was filled with military officials, scientists, and world leaders connected by secure video links. The message from the Zephyrian Empire played again and again on screens around the room. General Patricia Hayes, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, spoke first. Ladies and gentlemen, this appears to be a declaration of war against our entire species. The message is clear. They intend to enslave humanity. President Williams appeared on the main screen from the White House Situation Room. How long do we have? Dr. Chen pulled up her calculations. Based on the signal strength and direction, they transmitted this message from approximately 40 light-years away. If they have faster-than-light travel, which they clearly do, they could be here in weeks or months. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Humanity had just discovered they were not alone in the universe, and their first contact was a species that wanted to make them slaves. "What do we know about their technology?" asked Admiral Torres from the Pentagon. Dr. Chen switched to another display. "We've been monitoring their communications for the past week, since we first intercepted their signals. They have energy weapons, force fields, and ships that can travel between stars. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, but not by as much as they think," interrupted Dr. James Walsh from MIT. He stood up and walked to the display. "I've been analyzing their technical specifications from their communications. Yes, they have better materials and energy sources, but their approach to problem solving is actually quite rigid. They seem to follow very predictable patterns." "What do you mean?" pressed General Hayes. "They're not innovators," Dr. Walsh explained. "They're copycats who perfected existing designs. Their ships are powerful, but built the same way for thousands of years. Their weapons are effective, but haven't changed in centuries. They've grown comfortable and lazy." President Williams spoke from his screen. "And we have advantages they don't know about?" Dr. Walsh smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "President, they think we're primitive because we use chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. They don't understand that we've had to be creative because we didn't have better materials. We've learned to do more with less. We've learned to adapt." Over the next 3 months, the most intensive military and scientific preparation in human history began. The traditional enemies put aside their differences. Russia shared rocket technology with the United States. China opened their manufacturing capabilities to the world. European scientists worked around the clock with American engineers. The plan was simple but radical. Humanity could not match alien technology directly. Instead, they would use what they did best: adapt, modify, and improve. Every nuclear weapon on Earth was modified with new triggers and guidance systems. Satellites were launched into orbits the aliens wouldn't expect. Hidden bases were built on the dark side of the moon. Most importantly, humanity's greatest strength was put to work: their ability to think creatively under pressure. Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship as the Zephyrian fleet entered the solar system. The small blue planet hung before them, looking just as peaceful as it had in their long-range scans months ago. "Scan for their military forces," he ordered. The sensor operator's tentacles danced over his controls. "Admiral, I'm detecting some primitive satellites in orbit around the planet. A few small stations on their moon. Nothing that could threaten us." Admiral Vex nodded. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The humans had made no attempt to flee. They showed no signs of preparing for battle. They were probably trying to figure out how to surrender properly. "Begin the demonstration," he commanded. "Destroy one of their major cities. Make it visible from the whole planet. Once they see our power, they will surrender quickly." The lead battlecruiser powered up its main weapon, a massive energy beam that could vaporize a mountain. It aimed at the large city the humans called New York. The beam fired and struck an energy shield that erupted around the city in a brilliant blue dome. Admiral Vex stared at the screen in shock. The primitive humans had force field technology? That was impossible. Their scans showed no such capability. "Admiral," the sensor operator shouted, "I'm detecting massive energy readings from across their planet. Hundreds of defensive systems are coming online." Before Admiral Vex could respond, the first human counterattack began. What looked like primitive rockets launched from hidden sites across Earth. But these were not the simple chemical rockets from human space programs. These were fusion-powered missiles with nuclear warheads that had been redesigned by the best minds on Earth. The first Zephyrian ship to die was the scout vessel on the outer edge of their formation. The nuclear warhead didn't just explode. It created a directed energy pulse that overloaded the ship's shields and fried its electronics. The massive vessel went dark and began tumbling toward the sun. "How is this possible?" Admiral Vex demanded. "Our intelligence said they had no energy weapons." "They don't," his science officer replied, confusion clear in his voice. "These are nuclear weapons, but they've been modified in ways we don't understand. They're using the electromagnetic pulse as a weapon." More human missiles struck the fleet. Each one was different from the last. Some created massive electromagnetic fields that disrupted alien electronics. Others released clouds of metallic particles that interfered with energy weapons. A few actually punched through alien armor, using nothing but incredible speed and dense materials. But the most shocking development came when the humans launched their second wave of attacks. These missiles were clearly built using captured alien technology, but technology that had been improved upon. Admiral Vex watched in growing horror as a human ship appeared from behind their moon. It was crude and ugly compared to Zephyrian vessels, but it was using a faster-than-light drive that was somehow more efficient than their own. "Admiral," his communication officer called out, "I'm receiving a transmission from the human planet." "Put it on screen," Admiral Vex ordered. A human appeared on the display. He was wearing a military uniform and had gray hair. Behind him, other humans in uniform stood at attention. "I am General Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said. "You made a mistake when you declared war on humanity. You assumed we were weak because our technology looked primitive. You were wrong." Admiral Vex found his voice. "Your resistance is impressive, but pointless. We have hundreds of ships. You cannot win." General Hayes smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Admiral, you came to our home to make us slaves. You attacked our cities. You threatened our families. You have awakened something you don't understand." "What do you mean?" Admiral Vex asked. "We are a species that has spent our entire history at war," General Hayes replied. "Every generation has faced enemies who wanted to destroy us. We have learned to fight with whatever we have. We have learned to win against superior odds. We have learned to never give up." The human general paused, then continued. "You scanned our planet and saw our weapons, but you missed the most important thing about humanity. We don't just fight to survive. We fight to win completely. When someone threatens our home, we don't just defend ourselves. We make sure that threat never exists again." Admiral Vex felt a chill run down his spine. "You cannot be serious. You are one small planet against a galactic empire." "Watch us," General Hayes said simply, and the transmission ended. Over the next 6 hours, Admiral Vex watched his fleet of 200 ships get systematically destroyed by weapons that shouldn't have existed. Human forces appeared from hiding spots throughout the solar system. Their ships were crude but effective. Their weapons were simple but devastating. But worse than the losses was the growing realization that this had been a trap. The humans hadn't been caught off guard at all. They had been waiting. As his flagship limped away from Earth, the sole survivor of his once mighty fleet, Admiral Vex sent an emergency message back to the Empire. "Do not underestimate the humans," he transmitted. "They are not primitive. They are not weak. They are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. We have awakened something that should have been left alone." But it was too late. Humanity had tasted victory, and now they knew they could fight back against the galaxy itself. The age of human expansion was about to begin. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, humanity's first faster-than-light warship. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Earth, and the ship represented everything humanity had learned from captured alien technology. It was ugly by alien standards, all angles and armor plating, but it was built for one purpose: war. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Kim from the tactical station. Zephyrian Mining Station, designation Alpha 7. No escort vessels detected. Maria nodded. This would be humanity's first attack outside their own solar system. The mining station orbited a dead planet in what the aliens called the Outer Reach. Intelligence reports said it was home to 3,000 Zephyrian workers and produced rare metals for their war machine. Remember the mission, Maria announced to her crew. We're not here to destroy everything. We're here to send a message. Disable their defenses, capture their data, and give them a chance to surrender. The alien mining station was massive, easily the size of a small city. It had defensive turrets and energy shields, but they were designed to fight other aliens who followed predictable attack patterns. They were not designed to fight humans. The Vengeance appeared from hyperspace directly above the station's main docking bay. Human engineers had discovered that alien sensors had blind spots, areas where they couldn't detect ships because no civilized species would attack from such dangerous positions. Humans were not civilized by alien standards. Fire all weapons, Maria ordered. The Vengeance unleashed a barrage of modified nuclear torpedoes and electromagnetic pulse weapons. The alien shields flared and died under the assault. Their defensive turrets tried to track the fast-moving human ship, but couldn't keep up with its erratic flight pattern. Within minutes, the mining station was defenseless. Attention Zephyrian Station, Maria broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Santos of the United Earth Defense Force. You are now prisoners of war. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to the Geneva Convention. Resist, and we will demonstrate why attacking Earth was a mistake. The response came quickly. Human ship, this is Station Commander Rylak. You cannot be serious. You are one small vessel. The Empire will send a fleet to destroy you. Commander Rylak, Maria replied, look at your tactical displays. Your shields are down. Your weapons are disabled. Your communication array is jammed, except for this frequency. How long do you think it would take us to do the same to your homeworld? There was a long pause before Commander Rylak responded. What do you want? Information, Maria said, and we want you to send a message to your Emperor. Tell him that humanity is no longer on the defensive. The capture of the mining station sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian Empire. The humans had not only survived the invasion, they were now attacking Imperial territory. Emergency sessions were called on every major world. Emperor Kythax paced in his war room, his forearms gesturing wildly as he spoke. How is this possible? One small planet cannot threaten an empire of 847 star systems. Admiral Vex, still recovering from his wounds at Earth, stood before his emperor. My lord, I tried to warn you. These humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They do not fight like us. Explain, Kythax demanded. They study our technology and improve it within weeks, Admiral Vex said. They attack from directions we never consider. They use weapons in ways we never imagined. They have turned our own advantages against us. Science advisor Zeph floated closer on her platform. My emperor, I have been studying the human ship that attacked the mining station. It uses our faster-than-light drive, but they have made it more efficient. They have added armor in places we never thought necessary. They have weapons we do not understand. What do you recommend? The Emperor asked. We need allies, Admiral Vex said. The humans are expanding rapidly. They have captured 4 more stations in the past month. They are building ships using materials from our own mining operations. If we do not stop them soon, they will become unstoppable. The Emperor activated his communication array and sent messages to every major power in the galaxy. The Altarian Republic, the Centauri Federation, the Hive Collective, even species that the Empire had fought wars against in the past. The message was simple. Humanity must be stopped before they threaten everyone. Ambassador Fiss of the Altarian Republic received the Emperor's message in her office on the capital world of New Altair. She was a tall, graceful being with silver skin and large eyes. Her species had been at war with the Zephyrian Empire for over a century, fighting for control of trade routes. "Counselor Van," she called to her aide, "what do we know about these humans the Emperor mentions?" Counselor Van activated a holographic display. "Very little, Ambassador. They appeared 6 months ago when they defeated a Zephyrian fleet at their homeworld. Since then, they have captured several Imperial stations and are apparently building a fleet of their own ships." Ambassador Thys studied the display. "Show me their ship designs." The hologram changed to show the captured images of human vessels. They were crude and ugly, but there was something disturbing about them. They looked like they had been built for one purpose, to destroy other ships as efficiently as possible. "These are warships," Ambassador Thys said quietly. "Not exploration vessels or cargo haulers. Pure warships. When did they develop faster than light travel?" "Apparently, after capturing Zephyrian technology 6 months ago," Counselor Van replied. "Our intelligence suggests they had no such capability before their first contact with the Empire." Ambassador Thys felt a chill. They went from primitive chemical rockets to building interstellar warships in 6 months? "It appears so, Ambassador." "Send a message to the human forces," Ambassador Thys ordered. "I want to speak with their leaders immediately." 3 days later, Ambassador Thys found herself aboard the UES Retribution, a human battleship that had appeared at the edge of Altarian space. She was escorted to a meeting room by human soldiers whose armor looked disturbingly effective. General Hayes, the same human who had spoken to Admiral Vex during the Battle of Earth, entered the room. He was accompanied by a woman in a naval uniform and a man in a business suit. "Ambassador Thys," General Hayes said with a slight bow, "I am General Hayes. This is Admiral Chen and Secretary Davis, our diplomatic representative." "General," Ambassador Thys replied carefully, "your reputation has spread quickly across the galaxy. I wanted to meet you personally. I assume you want to discuss the Zephyrian Empire's request for assistance," General Hayes said directly. Ambassador Thys was surprised by his bluntness, but decided to match it. "Yes, they claim you are a threat to galactic peace." "They declared war on us first," Admiral Chen pointed out. "They came to our homeworld to make us slaves. We are simply ensuring they cannot do so again." "By destroying their empire?" Ambassador Thys asked. Secretary Davis leaned forward. "Ambassador, let me ask you a question. How long has your species been at war with the Zephyrian Empire?" 112 years, Ambassador Thys replied. "And how many of your people have died in that time?" Ambassador Thys hesitated. "Several million. The Zephyrians came to Earth planning to enslave 8 billion humans," Secretary Davis said quietly. "Every man, woman, and child on our planet. They saw us as animals to be worked to death in their mines and factories. Tell me, Ambassador, what would your species have done in our position?" Ambassador Thys had no answer for that. General Hayes stood up. "Ambassador, we're not asking you to help us. We're offering to help you. The Zephyrian Empire has been a plague on this galaxy for 3,000 years. They have enslaved dozens of species. They have destroyed entire civilizations. We're offering to end that." "And what do you want in return?" Ambassador Thys asked. "Trade agreements," Secretary Davis said. "Cultural exchanges, peace treaties. We want to build something better than the Empire. But first, we have to destroy what exists." Ambassador Thys left the human ship with much to think about. Over the following weeks, she watched as human forces systematically destroyed Zephyrian military bases throughout their territory. The humans moved like a plague themselves, but a precise one. They destroyed military targets and freed slave populations. They captured technology and resources, They grew stronger with every victory. Most disturbing of all, they were winning. Within 3 months, 12 major alien powers had signed secret agreements with Earth. They would provide information about Zephyrian forces in exchange for protection from human retaliation. Some even began providing resources to the human war effort. The galaxy was choosing sides, and most were choosing the newcomers who had appeared from nowhere to challenge the established order. Emperor Kythax received the reports in his throne room with growing despair. In less than a year, the humans had gone from primitive slaves to the dominant military force in his region of space. Worse, his own allies were abandoning him. "My Emperor," Admiral Vex said quietly, "perhaps it is time to consider negotiations." "Never," Kythax roared. "I am the Emperor of the greatest civilization in galactic history. I will not bow to primitive mammals." "Then we are all dead," Admiral Vex said simply. And deep in space, human shipyards worked around the clock, building more vessels for the growing fleet that would soon turn its attention to the Empire's core worlds. The tide had not just turned. It had become a tsunami. Emperor Kythax stood before the grand assembly of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Representatives from 47 different species filled the massive chamber on the neutral world of Kepler Prime. Some were old enemies of the Empire. Others were former allies. All of them shared one thing in common now: fear. "My fellow beings," Kythax began, his voice carrying across the chamber through universal translators. "We face an existential threat unlike any in galactic history. The humans must be stopped before they destroy us all." High Matriarch Valona of the Insectoid Hive Collective clicked her mandibles nervously. "Emperor Kythax, your species brought this plague upon us all. You attacked their world first. Why should we help you?" Kythax's forearms spread wide in a gesture of desperation. "Because if we do not stop them now, there will be nothing left to save. In 8 months, they have destroyed 63 Imperial battle stations, conquered 47 worlds, and freed over 2 billion slaves. They are not just winning, they are rewriting the rules of warfare itself." Prime Minister Arcturus of the Silicon-based Crystalline Union spoke next, his voice like wind through metal caves. "What makes these humans so dangerous? Our scientists have studied their technology. It is impressive, but not revolutionary." Admiral Vex stepped forward, his scarred body testament to his encounter with human forces. "Prime Minister, with respect, you are wrong. Their technology is not what makes them dangerous. It is their psychology. They do not fight like civilized beings." "Explain," demanded Chancellor Koreth of the Mechanical Collective. "They study us," Admiral Vex said, activating a holographic display. "Not just our technology, but our thinking patterns, our strategies, our weaknesses. Then, they design specific weapons and tactics to exploit those weaknesses. Every battle they fight, they learn something new. They adapt faster than we can respond." The display showed tactical recordings from recent battles. Human ships appeared from impossible angles, using gravitational slingshots around planets to achieve incredible speeds. They used asteroids as weapons, nuclear mines as area denial systems, and electronic warfare in ways that disabled alien ships without firing a shot. "But more than that," Admiral Vex continued, "they fight with a level of coordination and purpose we have never seen. Every human in their military knows exactly what they are fighting for. They have no competing political interests, no divided loyalties. They have one goal: total victory." Director Halth of the Academic Consortium, a floating jellyfish-like being, pulsed with concern. "Admiral, our intelligence reports suggest the humans have been very restrained in their attacks. They accept surrenders. They treat prisoners well. They have even established trade relations with some worlds. Perhaps negotiation is possible." That restraint is strategic, Admiral Vex replied grimly. They want other species to surrender rather than fight. It is more efficient. But when a species refuses to surrender when they resist, he paused, calling up another display. They show no mercy whatsoever. The holographic display showed the remains of the Korthak warrior clan's home system. The Korthak had been one of the Empire's most powerful military allies, a species that lived for battle and had never known defeat. When human forces had demanded their surrender, the Korthak had laughed and attacked. 3 weeks later, their entire star system was empty. The humans had systematically evacuated every planet, then collapsed the star itself using a gravitational weapon no one knew they possessed. The Korthak warrior clans, who had dominated their region of space for 2,000 years, simply no longer existed. The chamber fell silent. They offered the Korthak the chance to relocate their population to suitable worlds, Admiral Vex said quietly. When the Korthak refused and continued fighting, the humans made good on their threat. They turned one of the galaxy's most powerful military civilizations into refugees in a matter of days. Emperor Kythak stepped forward again. My fellow leaders, I propose a formal alliance. Every military force in this chamber, working together, focused on one goal: stopping humanity before they reach our core worlds. The debate that followed lasted for 6 hours. Some species argued for negotiation. Others wanted to wait and see if the humans would be satisfied with destroying just the Empire. A few suggested simply surrendering immediately and hoping for mercy. In the end, 31 civilizations agreed to join the Grand Alliance against humanity. 16 chose neutrality and immediate diplomatic contact with Earth. 3 species announced they were formally surrendering to human forces and requesting protection. The largest military coalition in galactic history had formed. Over 50,000 warships from dozens of different species, representing millions of years of combined military experience and technology. It was a force that could have conquered entire galactic arms in previous eras. Fleet Admiral Sarah Kim of the Human Defense Force received the intelligence reports aboard her flagship, the UES Determination, as the combined alien fleet moved toward the front lines. Her staff officers gathered around the tactical display, studying the incoming threat. 50,000 ships, muttered Colonel Torres, her tactical advisor. That's 25 times larger than anything we've faced before. And they're coordinating better than we expected, added Captain Rodriguez from intelligence. They've clearly studied our tactics from previous battles. Admiral Kim nodded calmly. Good. That means they're taking us seriously. What's our current fleet strength? 2,000 combat vessels, Colonel Torres replied. Another 1,000 support ships, all human-built within the past 8 months. Outnumbered 25-1, Admiral Kim mused. Historically speaking, that's actually pretty good odds for humanity. The Battle of the Centauri Nebula began 3 days later, when the Grand Alliance fleet arrived at the outer edge of human-controlled space. Their plan was simple and logical: use their overwhelming numerical advantage to crush human forces through sheer firepower. The humans had a different approach entirely. Execute Operation Thunderstorm, Admiral Kim ordered. What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. Human forces had spent weeks preparing the nebula itself as a weapon. Hidden mines created gravitational distortions that pulled enemy ships out of formation. Engineered gas clouds interfered with alien sensors and communications. Automated weapons platforms, disguised as asteroids, activated throughout the enemy fleet. But the real shock came when the human ships themselves entered battle. They moved in perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly where every other human vessel would be at every moment. They focused their fire with surgical precision, destroying command ships and communication relays first, then systematically eliminating specific vessel types. The aliens had more ships, better shields, and more powerful individual weapons. But they fought as 47 separate fleets that happened to be in the same place. The humans fought as a single organism, with 2,000 arms. Emperor Kythax watched from his command ship as his Grand Alliance slowly disintegrated. Human forces were picking apart his fleet, piece by piece, using tactics that seemed impossible. Ships appeared from hyperspace inside his formations. Weapons that looked like simple missiles turned out to be swarms of smaller weapons that could think and adapt. Human captains seemed to know what his commanders were going to do before they did it. "My Emperor," Admiral Vex reported, "we have lost 8,000 ships. The Hive Collective is requesting permission to withdraw. The Crystalline Union's formation has been completely destroyed. The Mechanical Collective ships are suffering cascade system failures from human electronic warfare." "How many humans have we killed?" Kythax asked desperately. "Intelligence estimates put human casualties at fewer than 50,000 across all their ships," Admiral Vex replied quietly. Kythax felt something break inside his mind. 50,000 human casualties against 8,000 destroyed alien ships, each carrying crews of hundreds or thousands. The humans were not just winning, they were winning so efficiently it defied belief. "Order all forces to withdraw," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "My Emperor?" "Order the retreat," Kythax repeated, louder. "We cannot win. We never could win." As the remnants of the Grand Alliance fled from the Centauri Nebula, Admiral Kim stood on her bridge and watched them go. Her communications officer looked up from his station. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different species. They want to negotiate terms immediately." "Accept them all," Admiral Kim replied. "Standard terms: complete disarmament, reparations for war damages, and transition to civilian governments. Any species that cooperates fully will be offered protection and trade agreements." "And the Emperor?" her tactical officer asked. Admiral Kim smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "We're going to give him exactly what he gave us when he first arrived at Earth. We're going to demonstrate our power in a way he'll never forget." 2 weeks later, the human fleet arrived at Zephyr Prime, the capital world of the Empire. Emperor Kythax's last remaining ships formed a desperate defensive line around their home planet, but they knew it was hopeless. Admiral Kim broadcast on all frequencies. "Emperor Kythax, this is Fleet Admiral Kim of the United Earth Defense Force. 1 year ago, you came to our world planning to make us slaves. You threatened our families. You attacked our cities. Now we are here to collect our debt." The demonstration that followed was visible from every inhabited world in the galaxy. Using weapons that combined alien technology with human innovation, the human fleet systematically dismantled every artificial structure in the Zephyr system. Space stations, defense platforms, orbital facilities, all of it was reduced to scrap metal in a matter of hours. But they did not destroy the planet itself. Instead, they left it intact, defenseless, and filled with nearly 10 billion Zephyrians who now understood exactly what it felt like to be completely at the mercy of another species. The empire that had ruled 847 star systems for 3,000 years officially ceased to exist at exactly 1347 hours Standard Galactic Time, on the day that would forever be known as Liberation Day. Humanity had won the first galactic war in recorded history. Now they had to decide what to do with their victory. Secretary of Galactic Affairs, Elena Rodriguez, stood at the viewing port of Unity Station, watching the steady stream of ships arriving and departing from what had once been the most feared military installation in the galaxy. A massive space station orbited the neutral world of Kepler Prime, and now served as the headquarters for humanity's new galactic government. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Zephyrian Empire. 1 year since humanity had proven that even the oldest and most powerful civilization in the galaxy could be brought down by determination, ingenuity, and the willingness to do whatever was necessary to protect their own. Madam Secretary, her aide James Park, approached with a data tablet. The morning briefings are ready. The Altarian Republic is requesting increased trade quotas for rare metals. The former Korthak clans are asking for permission to establish new colonies in the Outer Rim. And Emperor Kythax has requested another audience. Elena sighed and turned from the viewing port. At 35 years old, she had never imagined she would be responsible for governing hundreds of alien civilizations across thousands of star systems. But then again, nobody on Earth had imagined they would go from a single planet species to galactic overlords in the span of 18 months. "What's the status on the Korthak request?" she asked as they walked toward her office. "General Hayes recommends approval," James replied. "The warrior clans have fully integrated into our military structure. Their combat experience has been valuable in dealing with pirate groups and rogue elements. Admiral Kim believes they deserve a chance to rebuild their culture in peace." Elena nodded. The Korthak had been one of their most dangerous enemies during the war. But once they understood that continued resistance meant extinction, they had surrendered completely. Unlike the Zephyrians, who still plotted and schemed, the Korthak had accepted their defeat with something approaching respect for humanity's military prowess. And the Altarian trade request? Economics Minister Chen recommends partial approval. "We need the rare metals for our expansion projects, but we don't want to create too much dependence on any single species." They entered Elena's office, a Spartan room decorated only with a few pictures of Earth and a holographic star map showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones indicated areas still under direct human military control. Blue zones showed allied species operating under human protection. Green zones marked independent systems that had agreed to the new Galactic Accords. Most of the galaxy was now blue or green. The red zones were shrinking every month, as more species demonstrated they could govern themselves according to human standards. "What about Kythax?" Elena asked, settling behind her desk. "He claims to have information about a potential rebellion in the former Imperial core worlds," James replied. "Admiral Vex thinks he's telling the truth, but General Hayes believes it's another attempt to negotiate better terms for his exile." Elena pulled up the file on the former emperor. Kythax had aged rapidly since his defeat, his purple skin now pale and his movements slow. He lived in comfortable exile on a small moon, with a handful of loyal servants, spending his days writing memoirs that nobody would ever read. "Schedule a meeting for this afternoon," she decided. "Even if he's lying, it's better to be safe. We've worked too hard to build this new order to let some die-hard Imperial loyalists destroy it." The irony was not lost on her. Humanity had won the greatest military victory in galactic history. But now they faced a much more difficult challenge: ruling wisely. The galaxy contained over 300 intelligent species, each with their own cultures, needs, and problems. Earth's 8 billion humans were vastly outnumbered by the trillions of aliens now under their authority. But humanity had learned from the Empire's mistakes. Instead of ruling through fear and slavery, they governed through a combination of military strength and economic opportunity. Species that cooperated found themselves prospering under human protection. Those that caused trouble faced swift and decisive action. The key was consistency. Every species knew exactly what was expected of them, and exactly what would happen if they failed to meet those expectations. There were no exceptions, no special treatment, no corruption. It was a simple system that most beings could understand and accept. "Madam Secretary," her communication officer announced, "High Matriarch Valona of the Hive Collective is requesting an emergency conference." Elena frowned. The Insectoid Hive Collective had been one of the first to surrender after seeing what happened to the Korthak. They had been model citizens of the new galactic order, providing valuable scientific research and asking for very little in return. "Put her through." The holographic display activated, showing the insectoid leader in her organic throne chamber. Valona's mandibles clicked nervously as she spoke. Secretary Rodriguez, we have discovered something that requires immediate human attention. Our deep space exploration vessels have detected signals from beyond the galactic rim. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of signals? Artificial constructs, massive ones. They appear to be moving toward our galaxy at significant velocity. Based on their current trajectory and speed, they will reach the outer systems within 5 years. Show me, Elena ordered. The display changed to show long-range sensor readings from Hive Collective scouts. The images were unclear, but they showed structures that were clearly artificial and unimaginably large. Some appeared to be the size of moons. Have you been able to make contact? Elena asked. We have tried, Valona replied. They do not respond to any communication attempts. However, we have detected similar signals from 3 other directions. Whatever these beings are, they are approaching our galaxy from multiple vectors simultaneously. Elena's mind raced through the implications. Just when humanity had established peace and order, a new threat was approaching from outside the galaxy itself. She activated her emergency communication system. General Hayes, Admiral Kim, Emergency Protocol 7, report to my office immediately. Within minutes, her office was filled with Earth's top military and scientific leaders. She briefed them on the Hive Collective's discovery and watched as their expressions grew grim. How much time do we have? General Hayes asked. 5 years at most, Elena replied. Possibly less if they can increase their speed. Admiral Kim studied the sensor readings. These structures are massive. If they're ships, they could carry millions of beings. If they're weapons... She didn't finish the sentence. Dr. Walsh, now serving as Earth's chief science advisor, leaned forward. The approach pattern suggests intelligence. This isn't random. They're coordinating their arrival from multiple directions. It's an invasion strategy. General Hayes stood up and began pacing. We need to mobilize every species in the galaxy. If this threat is as large as it appears, we'll need every ship, every weapon, every mind working together. The question is, Admiral Kim said quietly, will they listen to us? We've spent the past year establishing our authority through military dominance. Now we're asking them to fight beside us as equals. Elena considered this carefully. The new galactic order was still fragile. Many species were cooperating out of fear rather than genuine loyalty. If they saw humanity as weak or desperate, some might see this as an opportunity to rebel. But if they didn't unite against this external threat, none of it would matter. We tell them the truth, she decided. We show them what's coming, and explain that none of us can face it alone. We offer them a choice: work together as partners, or face extinction separately. Over the following weeks, representatives from every known species gathered at Unity Station for the largest diplomatic assembly in galactic history. Elena stood before them all, looking out at the hundreds of different forms of intelligent life that now looked to humanity for leadership. My friends, she began, using the universal translator to reach them all. 1 year ago, we were enemies. Humanity was new to the galactic community, and we fought for our survival and our freedom. Today, we face a threat that makes our previous conflicts seem like children's games. She activated the display showing the approaching alien constructs. A murmur of fear and concern rippled through the assembly. These beings, whoever they are approaching our galaxy with what appears to be hostile intent. They outnumber all of us combined. They have technology we don't understand, and they're coming whether we're ready or not. Ambassador Thys of the Altarian Republic stood up. Secretary Rodriguez, what are you proposing? I'm proposing we face this threat together, Elena replied. Not as rulers and subjects, but as partners in survival. Every species contributes according to their abilities. Every species shares in the victories and defeats. We build a defense that represents the best of all our civilizations. There was a long silence before Emperor Kythax, sitting in the section reserved for former enemies, spoke up. His voice was weak but clear. Secretary Rodriguez, you destroyed my empire and defeated every military force in the galaxy. Why are you asking for our help instead of simply ordering it? Elena looked directly at the former emperor. Because, Your Majesty, we've learned something important over the past year. Fear can make people obey, but it can't make them fight with everything they have. And if these beings are as dangerous as they appear, we need everyone to fight with everything they have. The vote was unanimous. Every species, even those still harboring resentment against humanity, agreed to join the new Galactic Defense Alliance. They had learned the lesson of the Zephyrian Empire's fall. In a universe full of threats, it was better to stand together than fall alone. As the assembly dispersed and species representatives returned to their homeworlds to prepare for war, Elena remained at the viewing port of Unity Station. James approached with the daily reports. Madam Secretary, production estimates for the new fleet are ahead of schedule. The Korthak military advisors believe we can have 15,000 ships ready within 2 years. The Hive Collective's biological weapons research is showing promising results. Even the Crystalline Union has agreed to share their shield technology. Elena nodded, but her attention was focused on the stars beyond the viewing port. Somewhere out there, unknown beings were approaching with unknown intentions. Humanity had won one impossible war through determination and ingenuity. Now they would discover if those same qualities would be enough to save not just Earth, but every civilization in the galaxy. James, she said quietly, send a message to Admiral Kim. Begin Operation Prometheus immediately. The new weapon development program? Yes, if we're going to face the unknown, we need to become something new ourselves. As Unity Station continued its orbit around Kepler Prime, hundreds of ships departed for homeworlds across the galaxy. Each carried the plans for humanity's greatest project yet, the transformation of a galaxy of separate species into something that had never existed before, a truly united civilization. The age of human dominance was ending. The age of galactic unity was about to begin. And in the cold depths of space, ancient beings continued their inexorable approach toward a galaxy that was finally ready to fight as one. For the first time in galactic history, the outcome of such a war was genuinely uncertain. And humanity, the species that had once been dismissed as primitive slaves, would lead the defense of everything they had all built together.